Hello, everyone. Welcome to Why Wellness. I'm Gina Rose, a certified personal trainer and fitness nutrition specialist, and I created this platform for so many of us to share our why. Oftentimes, we hear this buzzword question in the health and fitness industry, and I couldn't think of a better way than to compile our stories right here on my podcast, Why Wellness. We're here discussing inspiring, relatable, and motivating stories from health and fitness professionals across various platforms. Please subscribe, rate, and share my podcast. It would mean so much to me. I can't wait to share this next episode with you. All right, guys, here it is. We are unpacking the why behind the things that we do in life, these larger than life decisions that we make, specifically the health and fitness and wellness world. And we could take this all the way back to our childhood and start unpacking, the different things that happened in our lives that led us to where we are today. But there's usually a big turning point when people make decisions to go in a different direction, or ultimately why they fall into the things that they fall into. So we're going to talk today just a little bit about me. This is the first podcast I'm doing. I'm super excited that you guys are here, and I just can't wait for it to evolve and for you guys to see or hear about future guests and have them tell their why as well. So to give a little bit of a backstory about how I fell into the world of wellness, let's start with, my first memories of being active. And that goes all the way back to elementary school, even preschool. I was a dancer. I took tap, jazz, ballet, and I did that for a few years at my preschool and the community center. And those are my first memories of really being active in an athletic atmosphere, if you will. I then transitioned out of dance and went into playing basketball. That was something that I loved so much. I remember the opportunity being available for me to go to summer camp and learn from the then college girls who were playing at a collegiate level, and I was so excited to learn from them. So it was just an extracurricular activity that I got involved with, and it was a great way for me to stay active and healthy and just be with my friends and in a positive way. However, I didn't stick with playing basketball at a high school level. So, of course, transitioning into high school and all of those other things, I didn't keep it up. I will say that I did dabble in trying to pick back up the sport after college. Just for fun, I joined a women's rec league, and it was awesome. But I was absolutely terrible. I met some great women, and it was a way for me to just, explore something that I once loved and see if it was something that I wanted to stick with. But like the first time, it was not. So great time there, but we definitely never won a game. So other than basketball, I did play 1 year of softball as well. Again, didn't stick with that. So I guess sports just wasn't really my thing as I was going into my late teen years. After high school, I did pick up the game of golf. So I got my first job out of college, right? I graduated from a 2 year career school. I was really focused on getting my first job. I had always worked, very early on. My senior year of high school, I was on our work release program, which allowed you to just take the classes that you needed to take instead of doing like a study hall or something like that. I was able to leave at the lunch break period and go right to work. So I started working very young, went to college, got through those 2 years, graduated, and took my first job out of college in Virginia at a higher education facility. And fast forward through through that year, I wanted to move back closer to home. I wasn't really feeling the situation that I was in Virginia, so I took a job back at the school that I actually had graduated from. And so I was there as a student services specialist and an educational assistant. During that time, we actually did have a golf course management program, so I ended up picking up the game of golf. And thanks to that cohort, that group of students, for just being the awesome students that they were, I was able to assist with fundraisers and things like that to help them experience what it was like in the real world and the game of golf, but more so on the business side as well. There were perks with that, of course. I was able to go to the US Open and up close and personal, see Tiger Woods, Roy McIlroy, KJ Choi, Jason Day, all of these great, amazing athletes on the golf course at Congressional Country Club. And it was just amazing. So those moments during that time really inspired me to pick up the game of golf. So I got out my golf clubs. And little side note here, my family actually always had made fun of me, or not made fun of me, but just teased me about. I had a great aunt, so my dad's aunt Angie. She never married, she had never had kids, and she golfed, and she was very focused on her career. So everyone in my family always joked and said that you're going to grow up and be just like Aunt Angie because she golfed. No one else in my family golfed, and I always thought that that was pretty cute. So I would go to the driving range. It was a great stress reliever and just practice on my swing. And there were a few times that I played 18 holes, but for the most part, I would try and stick with 9 holes because, oh my goodness, that game is such a long game, especially if you're not really great at playing like I was. So it was, again, another cool sport that I dabbled in. So fast forward through those 2 years of working at the school that I graduated from. And this leads us to my why turning point. I remember very vividly, it was March 2012 on a Friday, and one of my very close coworkers that I shared a cubicle next to was asked to step away from his desk. And I kind of noticed that happen, and I was, curious as to why that happened, wasn't quite sure. But he had stepped away, and not even, 2 minutes later, the president of the company came over and asked me to step into her office. So I was super confused, weirded out by what was going on. And so she sat me down and slipped me a piece of paper that said, "Today will be your last day." And at that point, I just looked at her like in a state of confusion. I had so many questions. And of course, she explained to me the reasons why consolidating one of the schools was being closed down. Some of the corporate employees were coming into the educational level, and it was just a downsizing. There wasn't much that I could do besides take the piece of paper and make the long walk back to my desk to put my belongings in the cliche white box that they give you and, try not to cry in the process. So I did that and got in my car and immediately drove back to my apartment where I lived alone. And I lost it. I just broke down, fell to my knees, and just started crying. It was the first time in my adult life, granted, I was 21, 22 years old, that life had really smacked me in the face. I had so many questions and thoughts running through my mind. Where am I going to go? What am I going to do? Even questions like, who am I? I was so used to living this comfortable life that I, in that moment, was unsure of everything that I had ever known. 2 years is a long time to have a pretty standard routine and be pretty comfortable with where you're at and what you're doing. So I don't really remember what I did on that weekend, but I vividly remember that following Monday morning. So as I mentioned, it happened on a Friday. I couldn't tell you what happened Saturday or Sunday, but Monday morning, I vividly remember waking up and feeling more lost than I had on Friday because again, you're so used to that routine. Your body is used to a certain routine. You're just, you know, in this moment of okay, now what? So, I immediately open up my laptop. I start looking for jobs on Career Builder or Monster, whatever the career engines were at that point, and just trying to take one step at a time. And I did file for unemployment, but I also worked part time. I'll tell you guys, I literally took a job part time in retail. I did what I had to do because I had rent to pay, I had a car payment, I had, all of these adult things that you have when you're 22 and living on your own, I guess. And I needed to make ends meet. So I started looking for jobs. And about, mid morning, close to the afternoon, I was definitely sick of being in the house. So this is the moment, guys. This is the moment right here. I didn't have any place to be on that Monday when I would have originally been working. So I wanted to go outside. And I put my shoes on and I walked out my front door and I just started walking. Just walking. I just took a walk. Eventually, I found myself jogging, and then I found myself running. And I'm not a runner, and I wasn't a runner at the time. And I just started running. I don't know if my body just was running from something, if it was running towards something, but all I know is that it felt good to run. So I lived in an apartment complex, a community where there was a clubhouse not too far. And I ran over to the clubhouse and I walked into the gym for the first time. I walked in, no one was in there, pretty small facility. I hopped on a treadmill, which I don't know if I had ever been on really before that. I hopped on a treadmill and I continued my walk. And in that moment, around noon on a Monday, after having just lost my job, I thought to myself, this is pretty cool. I seriously thought, this is actually really cool. Everyone else who still has their job is at work right now, and they're in their cubicles and they're at their desks and they're working. And I'm here on a Monday afternoon at 12 o'clock at the gym. And in that moment, I felt like I had it better than them. And it was that mindset and that epiphany, if you will, that would lead me into this next chapter of my life. So I realized in that moment that it felt good. What I was doing just then and there, it felt good. I had never gone to a gym before. I had never been a member at a gym, but I remember going in, reading the labels on the equipment, the leg extension machine, the leg press, and just teaching myself how to use it. So I would do that, and it really helped fill a void during that week where I was supposed to be, originally at work. I would go to the gym. So then it clicked while I was still doing my job search that, okay, well, this is kind of cool. I like this. I like working out. I want to learn more about this. So I started applying online at gyms, and there was one in particular in Baltimore that I had applied to. I'm not exactly sure what the position was that I had applied to online, but I do remember submitting my resume and then following up a couple days later. And I walked in, I took my resume old school. I walked into the front of this gym. And I remember a lady named Denise was like, well, we don't have this position, but we actually have a position at our downtown location. And it was for a membership sales position. And I had never had experience in a gym before. I didn't really have a lot of sales experience other than the retail job that I had picked up, which was basically a beauty sales consultant at Victoria's Secret. So I didn't have, much sales, but I did have my career background from the job that I had just lost. So I interviewed with the owner, I interviewed with the sales manager from at the downtown location, and it was really exciting. I was just so excited to enter into an environment that I had never been in before. So I put on my best interview outfit and went in with just like the biggest hope in my heart, and I ended up getting the job. I will say this did not happen right away. So it took a lot of time. Like I said, I actually picked up a job in between. And I also enrolled myself back into school. I enrolled myself into school because I thought that I needed to do that in order to get a better job somewhere, or that I needed to do that because I had only had my associate's degree. And so I knew that I didn't want to go to school on campus because that would be too tough for me to maintain while still maintaining a career. Always been very career focused because I always just wanted to be able to take care of myself and my family and not really have to ever rely on anybody to do that. So I had always just really wanted to make sure that I was responsible for my own income. So I knew that going back to school on campus wasn't necessarily a thing. So I had looked online and found some great online courses that I could take. So I went back to school for corporate communications and journalism and thought that maybe one day I would be a sideline sports reporter. I really loved the Baltimore Ravens. We'll get into that a little bit later, probably in a future podcast. But I did end up working for the Baltimore Ravens for a little while. So all of this stuff sort of happened right at the same time. So I thought that going back to school was the right thing to do. There are a lot of other events that happened that helped mold my career overall, but I will say that because I lost my job and because I had free time to explore something that I might have not otherwise explored. That is why I fell into something that I actually love. And I didn't know that I loved it until I found it. So, fitness gave me purpose, not only on a personal level, because it made me feel good in a moment of sadness and defeat, but it also gave me purpose in my profession. And later down the line to where I am now would also help me discover that I loved helping other people find that love for themselves in the most healthiest and happiest ways that they can through this vessel of wellness. And I'm so thankful that things played out the way that they did, because I'm not sure that I really would have stepped into a gym, or at least not at that point. I was actually living a pretty unhealthy lifestyle. I didn't know much about health and fitness at all. So, I'm really grateful that that happened. So, that is just the beginning of my why. There will be future episodes where I elaborate more and how it continued to evolve over time. So, here are my takeaways and key points from today's episode. Trust your timing. It is your timing, not your girlfriend's timing, not your boyfriend's timing. It's not your parents' timing, your spouse's timing, your children's timing. It's not your best friend's timing. It's not your coworker's timing, or even that influencer or, celebrity that you look up to. As cliche as it might sound, literally things will fall into place for you in the right time. And I have to remind myself of that sometimes. There have been times when I wanted something and it just wasn't the right timing. Maybe it was just life telling me that I wasn't ready for that yet, and I probably wasn't. It doesn't mean that it never will happen, but maybe at that particular moment, it just wasn't the right time. So trust your timing. Second takeaway, second key takeaway here is allow yourself to be lost. Even if you're super comfortable with where you're at right now, whether it's in your career or in your personal life, allow yourself to experience something that you've never experienced before, or, learn something new, because you might just find that you actually enjoy that and you might want to explore it further. And who knows what might come of that. So allow yourself time to be lost. Get out of your comfort zone. And in those moments, oftentimes we find out things about ourselves that we never really knew before. And it could open up a new door that we never knew could be opened. And that does it, guys. Thank you so much for listening through to the end of that episode. I hope you'll share this with your friends, your family, and your network so we can continue growing this community even more and hear the stories that have yet to be told. Please let me know your thoughts too. Reach out, tell me what you've learned, tell me what's resonated with you, and let me know who you want to hear from next. I can't wait to talk to you guys soon.